Welcome to another episode of Daddy's Girl. Today I have with me Hales, who I met through Corey with the 4 daughters, and we met for coffee, and then it instantly became fast friends to the point that we were supposed to be talking about Daddy's Girl, and then we completely got side railed on everything and
life.
On life and all the mutual friends that we have and experiences that we like to do and just everything. And now here we are, and you're going to share your story.
Yes, we're excited.
So I'm very happy to have her. So let's just dive in. Tell me what it was like growing up being a daddy's girl.
Okay, so for me, I don't think I started out necessarily as a kid being a daddy's girl. My parents divorced when I was about 12, and he really was affected by it, and I saw his pain, and I think that's when I really became a daddy's girl, because I really empathized with the pain that he was going through, and really kind of took his side as I think as a kid. And that was around 14, 15, and that's how I became a daddy's girl.
And you were explaining to me what your upbringing was like, because I feel like it's so beautiful and unique and cool. What was that like?
So I was born into a mixed family. My dad's English and my mom's Jamaican, and they were both heavily into music. Okay. We had, I was telling you earlier that we actually had a dedicated music room.
I love
that we would solely listen to records. And I mean, my dad had an entire system where he spent tens of thousands of dollars on, from the speakers to the sound system, from tape to tape back in the day in the 80s to a turntable, which I actually have now with me. So it was a really great musical home.
And what kind of music was your dad into and your mom into, and what did that feel like?
Well, they both had very different tastes. My mother, being Jamaican, she loved reggae, and so Barris Hammond and Bob Marley. I know that my grandparents also big fans of Bob Marley. And then my dad listened to all classical music, a lot of like old soul. I mean, we loved Sade. Really a whole spectrum of artists.
And then from there, you spoke about the divorce.
Yes.
And then you told me the story of what happened that day. Tell me what happened.
So we were an estranged family. So ultimately, when my parents divorced, I really did, like I said, side and really felt for my dad. So I was very much a daddy's girl, and me and him had a great relationship. And at the time I was 18, and he was a cyclist, and I got a call. I was a girlfriend from LA was visiting me, and I got a call from my dad's girlfriend at the time, and she said he had been in an accident. He was in intensive care, and so we rushed to the hospital, where he was air ambulanced actually to Whitechapel, Royal Whitechapel Hospital in London, and he was in intensive care for a couple of days. So it was touch and go, and we didn't really know if he was actually going to make it. I mean, they definitely told us that there's a good chance he can go either way. And so from there, he actually improved. He got better, but he got a track put in, and he had a feeding tube, and ultimately he just deteriorated over 2 weeks and ended up dying of stomach ulcers.
And what was that emotional roller coaster like during that phase and then after that? Because I would assume that you thought, okay, this is a terrible accident, but he's on the road to recovery, and then the aftermath. What was that like?
I mean, you looking back at it, it's definitely it feels like I was in a fog, quite frankly. So during the when he was in intensive care, it was touch and go. I mean, I think that was the hardest part, because it really was coming to terms with like he could just be gone any minute. And then when he was getting better, that was also challenging because he had broken his jaw, so his mouth was wide shut, so he couldn't speak. He had a trachea in, and he was just miserable, and so he was pulling his tubes out and every night, and so he was really fighting it. So it was really hard to see him in that condition because he was such an athlete, and so. So when we did get the call, it was like 4 or 5 a.m. That he did pass. Even that was kind of surreal, because he was improving, and there was no warning signs of that he potentially could leave us. So.
And did the realization sink in through the progression, or it was after the fact, maybe a month later or a week later or a day later, that you were just like, he no longer physically is here? Because I'd moved out very early, at a very early age, from 15, I was always a very independent person, and I had lived alone, so I don't think there's ever been a point where it's actually sunk in where he hasn't been physically present. I still feel his presence every day. I still believe he watches over me. There's definitely obviously times where I wish I could share things. Sure.
Pick up the phone, get some advice. Definitely at 18, there's a lot of questions, life questions that you don't get to ask, even just about his life, and that I wish I had the opportunity to ask him, but I don't believe it's ever truly sunk in that he isn't physically here.
And what do you think that he equipped you with? Because you say you always feel his presence.
Yes.
What life lesson did he teach in you or instill in you, or you feel like you embody a part of who he is? What does that look like?
Well, lots of things. Like, I honestly, music, number one. I mean, I started out in the States with a music career and managing talent, and just
and impressive talent. Like, really impressive talent.
Yeah, really impressive talent, and traveling the world with talent. I got really lucky with working with two great guys who taught me the ropes in New York very early on. And if it wasn't for this, admiration, like huge admiration that he had for music, I don't think I would have approached it in such a way, and wanting it to be such a big, huge part of my life and my work. So there's that, and just realizing what's great music and great musicianship and bands and just the quality of music itself. I think he just really raised the bar. And so there's that, and then also just fitness in general. I mean, I was speaking to you earlier about that too. Anytime I work out, whether it be I'm doing a soul cycle or running or whatnot, and got into triathlons too, I guess, what's the word? I think we're going to cut this, but but no, I think just his dedication and his commitment to just doing his personal best for me really resonated with me, because every time I do compete doing tries or working out, I go in there and I do my best, and I really channel his energy when I'm doing those things.
Yeah. One of the things that you were telling me off camera was that he kept a very meticulous journal of his cycling. Yeah. And I feel like that's such a valuable lesson.
Totally.
What was that like?
Well, I knew he wrote in these diaries, and so it wasn't until he died where I really understood how, like, years of these diary entries where he would write down all the weather conditions, what he ate, how the weather affected his personal best, the time of his training session he was doing. And he was so meticulous in that, doing it every single day. I've got at least 10 years worth of his diary inputs, and that to me just again shows his meticulousness of his personal best, and just competing with himself, and not necessarily with anyone else, but always doing putting the effort in consistently, and having that motivation and that drive to just keep challenging yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like that in itself is a lesson that I think everybody can improve on, because I think there is this with social media and this level of competition, or trying like fake it till you make it and things like that. I think a lot of times we've stepped away from just doing our personal best and tracking our personal best and removing the noise.
Exactly, and just really focusing on yourself, and not kind of the noise, or and just comparing yourself to others, because and that's why even triathlon is a great sport, because there's going to be people that are better at swimming, better at running, better, and so for you, like you're never going into that race like I'm just that I'm comparing myself with another individual, because we're all going to be better at different things, and for me that's again, when I'm in the ocean and I'm swimming, I channel him, and I do feel like he's with me every stroke.
That's so beautiful.
Yes.
What do you most admire in him?
I think his calmness. He was a very calm man, and very loving man, and simple. He loved his cycling, and he loved his music, and and that's what made him happy, and and that's ultimately what makes me happy. I mean, if I'm not listening to music and I'm not working out, I'm not a happy bunny.
Aww. And if he was sitting here right now, what would you say to him?
I think I would ask him more than anything, like what he thought about how I'd lived my life. I think that that's definitely something that I always wonder, of what he, what he would think about the way I've chosen to live and spend my time. And
what do you think he would say?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think that he is proud that I've done, as many triathlons as I have done, because that's definitely a challenge. And also just keeping his turntable living on. I restored it this year, and I hadn't been played for about 20 years, and so I'm really proud about keeping that legacy, and this music room. This is now
your music room.
Yes.
I love it. And what would you want the world, or your family, or the people that are closest to you, what would you want them to know about your father? Like, what's his legacy to you?
Okay. I think is, again, I would just say consistency. I think commitment and consistency to the things that move you, that light you up, and to remember and rejoice in those things. And that's what I've been able to do, even through hardship or through hard times. Music always brings me back to a place where I forget all of my troubles. If I'm doing, working out, or whatever it may be, again, that takes me to another realm where I forget, that there's anything else going on, and just being in it and being present.
I love that. I love that response. Is there a song or a record that is your go-to if you are having that moment of hardship?
Absolutely.
Or you need to feel his presence?
Yes.
Or you want to feel his presence?
Yes, I think, okay, so there's a couple of different songs. So for his, when I'm channeling him, there's actually it was actually the last record that he played on the record player, which was left on there, by Joan Armatrading. And it's called Me, Myself and I.
Wow.
And I had never even heard of Joan before. I didn't even remember it as a kid. I was really baffled when I saw it, and I was like, okay, this is the last one he played, but I don't know it. And so I Googled it, and she's this amazing black woman who was big in the indie scene in the 80s, and she's got 3 records, and I've actually got, when I go home, I bring back records with me, so I have a couple of hers, and so that's my go-to when I want to remember him and remember that's what the last record he played. But for me personally, when I just actually got the Immaculate collection, the Madonna Immaculate collection that only was released in Europe when I went to London the last time I went. And so I love Cherish, I love Crazy. I mean, I love every song on that compilation. And then also Whitney is a big go-to for me. Then I want to dance with somebody, and that always instantly gets me out of anything.
Yeah, I feel like you can't listen to that song with a sad face, or if you're like you're feeling sorry for yourself, you have to put that on, and you're just like
turning it up, and I rock out in here, and I'm good again. All is well.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this and letting us be in your space and sharing your story. And I'm just so happy to have you on.
I'm happy to have shared.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So that's episode 7 of Daddy's Girl. Thanks so much for watching.